Authenticity and masking.
Being visibly plural in public. This video's contents include a simulation of critical thoughts, broad topics without detail, mentions of past experiences being internalized in no more detail than is written here, subconscious beliefs, no detail, changing thoughts and beliefs, mean online comments, no specifics or details, bringing up emotions from the past, no specifics or details, and fear of not doing enough, TM. We are not professionals, therapists, or mental health experts. We wanted to show how we manage critical thoughts and challenges like anxiety, because these things happen in our common daily experiences that we've learned to support each other through. This is not to say that there aren't other ways to learn to manage these things. Please don't disregard your own professional's advice or your gut feelings due to anything you see or hear in our videos. Our aim is to show ways that have helped us to navigate life as a system, but we never want any many to feel like ours is the only way. Every system works differently, and that is okay.
Hello, we go by verses, collectively. My name's Connor, although this is mostly I think Vince, Vi, and maybe Axel's face I'm wearing right now. The image description is a background tapestry of a full moon and a system with several people fronting, very dissociatedly speaking into a camera, with a Spider-Man hoodie on, a red and black makeup around the eyes, lips, and red and black short spiky hair.
At the top right of the screen is an image that's a chart that reads System Unmasking Support Goal Card. It has 9 boxes that follow a trail, reading from left each other encouraging post-it notes, said something kind about each other in the vlog or mirror, spoke kindly to each other on a quiet walking route, gave each other a compliment walking in a park, offered each other reassurance while cars passed, allowed your kids to play somewhere outside the house, had a conversation with headphones on outside and focused on being together, made an in-joke while doing the food shop, and went for coffee together and had a conversation with reassurance in a cafe. It's pink, purple, and blue in terms of colour.
We do a lot of work around unmasking and living authentically as a system, being able to feel free to express ourselves and not feeling like we need to be confined into a specific way of presenting. We do a lot of this in our personal lives, and we go to college where we're out as a system. We also have a YouTube channel, and we have an online presence where we're also visible as a system and as individuals within it. We've had to do a lot of work to be able to show up comfortably in the way that we do. Very few of us can mask, so we were kind of always gonna be presenting differently from day to day, and we just had to get comfortable with that. But in doing so, we've found a way to make our lives so much better and so much more real, and to be able to show up in ways that is genuine for all of us and allows us to meet our needs as individuals within a collective in a way that isn't performative, like when we felt like we had to mask or when we did have to mask in the past. So we really wanted to speak a bit about masking and about the work we do around feeling comfortable to drop that mask, how we've done it as a sort of set process in stages, so that we could do it comfortably over a period of time and work on building resilience to people's responses so that it impacts us less and less. Because that is the way we found to feel the most free to be able to exist as we are. And we really wanted to be able to bring the things that have helped us for other systems to use if it helps use. Ultimately, what really helped for us with unmasking was just consistent imperfect practice and making sure that we're responding to each other kindly when we practice. Recognizing achievements and building on those, recognizing any kind of accomplishment towards our goal of being able to feel comfortable being visible and being genuine. What would really help is having little bingo cards to fill out. So we created these system unmasking support goal cards. They're sort of like bingo cards, except there's a suggested pathway of the way we found experiences built from being less intimidating to progressively more intimidating as you go. It allowed us to build up, and this is just following the roadmap that we followed. Different experiences are probably going to be easier or more difficult for different systems and different people within those systems. So do stuff at your own pace, or even you could create your own with experiences that are tailored to what you find easy and getting a bit more difficult as you go. What really matters is just showing up and practicing and rewarding the things you do right, acknowledging them, noticing them to each other, to yourselves. So the idea with these support goal cards is that you can have a set of little stickers The idea about this resource is to print it out and use it kind of like a bingo card. And your kids can stick everything that you achieve as you go. And then also, if you stick it on the wall, you've got this visible reminder of what you're capable of and the experiences you've all shared together, learning to interact with each other and prioritize like your comfort and your existence above anything external in how you're being perceived. And for us, that's been really helpful at keeping us anchored to each other in other times, to see that, especially watching from the inside as I watch our hosts do that, I think seeing people prioritizing what we think is cool and what we think is good above what other people might think has made it way easier to do that over time. And having visual reminders that that's what people have done, it makes it easier to build the path, I guess, like blazing a trail, so that other people in the system can then sort of follow on the slightly more treaded path. Do you want to go off? Because the first ones were like geared towards hosts a bit, yeah.
So the first column on this started with things that I found it difficult to accept as being visible to myself for a long time. I think, as a lot of parts of me were long-term hosts for a while, the idea of us being visibly plural was something that I had to get used to, and then get used to other people seeing us be visibly plural. So it's kind of built up from that. So leaving each other encouraging post-it notes just to see the different handwriting and like different drawings and different ways of interacting from different people. That took a while for me to feel comfortable with. I love it now, for the record. That makes me feel so supported, and it's so cool to see that people want to collaborate and engage. Saying something kind about each other's vlog or into the mirror, we actually do both. It really helps. I think that it helps with co-regulation of the nervous system for other people inside to feel really supported when we're doing it. It was hard for me to access for a while because I felt quite critical when I looked into a mirror and when I watched back vlogs. I either felt really critical of myself or critical of seeing we were plural, and both of those things, coming from experiences we'd had in the past and being internalized, meant that it was difficult to access at first. But we just did some work around practicing it slowly and being kind with our self-talk and our selves-talk until it was more accessible. And now it's something that I really value, and I really enjoy being able to watch back our vlogs and it comes out naturally, something kind that I'd say about myself or about someone else, or speaking kindly in the mirror. I just see things that I love about us and I say it. At first I had to do it really manually and I had to really try to train that in so that that could be possible.
Speaking kindly to each other on a walking route, I think going outside the house and being able to, like, once we could interact inside the house as plural and that was accepted for us to see, it was easier to do it like with our partner or with friends walking next to us.
Yeah, 100%, to have like a buffer of other people that knew us and that we were safe with. Then it was like a safety net, I guess, for the world to see us, because we had our positive interpretation lens of us, their positive interpretation lens of us, and then it like compensated for what the world's lens might be.
Gave each other a compliment while walking in a park.
Really cool place to practice because people aren't necessarily going to see you or notice you, but the thoughts are in your head that they can, which means I can work with the thoughts in my head in the situation, but at a low enough level where I can deal with it.
And it just builds that muscle, especially if you start from out of the context that makes you feel anxiety and slowly move into the context, then you can like train the muscle of having a different response to the context as you go, as long as it doesn't compete too much with the existing response. So like I wouldn't go straight into the city centre and just like have us start having a conversation with each other for people that were scared of that, because like the prevailing way that that would make us feel would be too strong. But if we start in the house and then the garden and then like speaking kindly to each other in a walking route and then giving each other a compliment in a park, it's like you're slowly entering more and more of a situation that builds that response, but while teaching a different response, like building the muscle of internal acceptance and the way that we see ourselves and each other as a positive thing. And it gets easier then for it to come up against the very different view that the world might have on someone seeing you as plural and it being a bad thing. But instead of that overtaking our view of ourselves, because we're building it as we go at a manageable level every time, our view of it just being what's normal and healthy and right for us and the world not having to understand it for that to be okay gets strong enough for it to like lower the impact that that worldview could have. Offered each other reassurances while cars passed by. You should probably take this. This was stumbled upon kind of accidentally. Yeah, and in retrospect, it works really well. I think there were times when we'd just be walking somewhere down a populated main road, and you would just say something to me. You would freeze frame in anxiety. That would make you say more. I would feel guilty if I didn't respond. Not intentionally weaponized, but I don't think it counts as weaponizing it if it's like for my benefit as well as for all of our benefits. Because you did it at like a low enough level where it was like, it was kind of playfully done. You were always slightly amused. You gave me time to respond. You reassured me. Like, you'd say something, and if I would freeze because we were outside, my brain would feel like, no, we can't like speak back and forth to each other with people around. Then you would kind of catch me feeling that. You would assume what it was about, or you would hear the thoughts. I would assume at that point. I don't think we could share thoughts then. And then you'd just tell me things like, these drivers will be gone within a quarter of a second. They can't actually hear what we're saying. Even if they could, they're not realistically people that are going to impact our lives. It became kind of a trend because we realised that that helped once I could start responding to you. It was a situation where my fears about being observed as we were visibly responding to each other as a plural system were able to be realised in a safe and contained way. Because instead of just avoiding it happening, we were constantly met by the possibility of the responses I feared, but while it was being regulated to a level where it was really unlikely that anyone was going to actually say or do anything that made me feel unsafe, other than maybe glance at me as they're driving past. And that probably wasn't because we were talking to each other. Then allowing and supporting your kids to play somewhere outside the house. That has been so fun and so freeing as well. For a long time, since the body got older, maybe our kids would see like a flower they wanted to poke at, or they'd see a wall they wanted to climb on, and we'd freeze up. I'd be like, no, people will see that. That will really draw attention. That doesn't feel safe. And then the more we started learning to ignore people's responses to us engaging and just like blinker and focus on our response and ignore the world's, which is a repeated process of like noticing and coming back to us, reassuring, building safety, noticing, coming back, reassuring. Like, it was always about coming back and building safety at every level and not exposing ourselves to too many triggers too fast so that they overwhelmed our ability to come back to safety. I think that's really why building in a process helps, because you can level the amount of triggers to the amount of safety you can build so that that's always higher. And the amount of safety and comfort that you can build being in these situations and prioritizing our response and our emotions is always able to be higher than the fear of other people's responses in the situation. And as we started doing this and learning how to respond to each other, ignoring other people's response, I think our kids started seeing us do this, and they started being like, I want to do this. And we were kind of like, yeah, that fits with what we're doing. So go ahead, pet that flower. And then you would respond very encouragingly. I would close my eyes and hold onto the wheel and scream while you like hit the accelerator. I remember times where they were happy and they wanted to skip, and I inhibited the response and they felt really sad. And I just remember you like skipping down the road in giant new rocks with me feeling like the floor is gonna swallow me whole, and you reminding me that there's a good track record so far of that not having happened. But it really has helped. It really helps. Like, whenever I'm in a situation and I want to do something and normally I'd shut down and think I can't, like, in the last few years, I think of all the things that we've watched you make possible and like open the way for us to do, and it makes me think that I can do it. And I like, even when we were doing presentations in class and it was my turn to do one, I thought about like all the things that you've both been like, yeah, we'll keep you safe from the consequences, we'll deal with these things together. And I thought, well, the same thing would happen. So like, it doesn't matter if I make a mistake or anything, because what matters is I'll feel good about having tried and you'll reassure me that I did well. It doesn't matter like what other people's response is. It makes me so happy to like hear that really makes that much of a difference. It does. I think it's a little easier for us as well. Like, you two being the oldest people at the front, I think you kind of had to go more against the current, but you're like changing the tide for the rest of us. So it's like it's a little less against the tide when we have to do the same things. That was absolutely the intention, so I'm really glad that you trust us enough to feel like you can go for the things that you want to go for. Having a conversation with headphones, earphones on, and focused on being together. So like the goal of this exercise would be not even looking at people's faces or body language, providing you know your area and you know that you're safe to do this. The idea is just have headphones on, have empowering music or have no music at all, and walk through a place just having a conversation. If you're a covert system, you may have less anxiety about this. We couldn't ever. I've tried to mimic your voice all of one time and it didn't go well. I can't even make my voice that high. Like, my vocal cords cut out at that range. I will say I have had anxiety thinking like our voices don't sound anything alike. This is not, people are not going to assume we're on the phone. But also every single time we've done it, nobody has ever questioned us or noticed. I think people just see the headphones, see the talking, and they tune out. But even if they don't, as long as you're keeping yourself safe, other people's judgment really isn't a threat to us. And I think that building this up helps to give a real embodied way of feeling that as reality. Made an in-joke while doing the food shop. That was hard. That was like surprisingly hard. I think it's because like it makes sense, right? Like as a point of the brain wanting to be understood as a point of safety, it's quite hard to intentionally do something you know people aren't going to understand. And like walking in a shop's quite confined, there's people around. So walking in a shop and saying something that is only going to be funny to us and only going to be understood by us, that was like surprisingly difficult. At first, it's normal now. We just like, I don't even look at people's responses to us anymore. I don't feel pulled to check. So we just are in our own world with each other a lot of the time, while obviously maintaining an awareness of the world around us. But I'm not like pulled to glance most of the time. That was fun though. Doing these things as a set challenge, like leaving the house with a little bingo card and being like, I'm going to do these things, or I'm going to do this thing today. Oh, I remember feeling such a sense of achievement. Like, we're going to do it, we're going to make an in-joke in a shop, and then just like, we didn't have the scorecards, but we do journaling to keep track of it. I think actually I posted a video about it, and it was like one of the first times we went to the shop and we were interacting with each other and I didn't have a panic attack about it. I remember that actually, that was very cool. Tag. Then we used to go for coffee together, which is absolutely the best medium for dealing with anxiety. Tea is also an option. I prefer coffee. We'd go for coffee often. I found enclosed spaces with other people in the public were harder. I felt more anxiety being in like a little coffee shop and we just have the wrist mirror propped up somewhere on our bag and have a conversation. It was much harder to not look at other people's response because there would be a response. Mostly people would like a few times and then they just kind of continue. Once people think you're doing something that is genuinely a bit weird, most people just blank you, like they do not want to be involved. They also clear the path for you really conveniently. Yeah. Walking through town, if we're talking together now, people just like part like the sea and it's really convenient. We spent a really long time just going and having coffee and having conversations while we were in a cafe with the mirror propped up or finding a mirror there. And most of the time at first the conversations would involve like someone who was less anxious about it reassuring the other person and bringing them back into the room and helping them to feel something different and interpret what was happening in a way that was more positive than what would naturally occur without that support. And then we kind of had like a mentoring system where like we've started to do that more and more with each other. And throughout the setups and the conversation and the videos coming up, we wanted to make it as easy to follow along if you wanted to with your system as we could. So we used a situation that was real. I used a video that I really am having, well, or really was having. That's cool. I used a video that I really was having trouble feeling anything positive about, and I was feeling anxious about that being seen and about being visible. So Vince and Vi and Connor like just went, oh, this is the process we used for that. This is how it's easy for us now, and we can take you through it. And I asked if we could film the process so that we could use something that was real to include in this, like a tutorial, so that we could give demonstrations that were genuine. And the next few scenarios that we take you through were really just me being taken through that process that they used to be able to build from the inside out, to have that confidence and that resilience in being observed. I guess feeling more connection with ourselves and each other than feeling preoccupied with other people's experiences. And I guess that's how we build the resilience to be able to feel comfortable or safe feeling uncomfortable being visibly plural in our lives. And I think it's making us like closer as a system, and I think it makes it just way more free as a way to exist. So we hope that you all can find something beneficial in this.
Learning to unmask as a system through following this process. What does it look like? We start working from our own internal responses out. Why? Because if we have unmanaged feelings of shame and critical thoughts and beliefs about ourselves, they will project outwards onto others. And we will see those qualities we're uncomfortable with in others and feel uncomfortable. And we will also hear it in others' responses to us, whether or not it's there. Because if we believe something about us, we unconsciously can think others believe it too. How? We find a contained and safe level of accessing those subconscious beliefs and thoughts about ourselves. In this case, we use vlogging and journaling as tools to do this. Then we observe, dismantle, and unpack the thoughts gently and slowly, with lots of breaks to come back to embodied safety. We work out what underlying beliefs they come from, and we change the belief to one that's more helpful and empowering for us to hold. The immediate response from the system is about safety, connection, and reconnecting to agency through manageable choices, not fixing. We can't process or think our way out of a trauma response. Image description. The image shows a first-person point of view with a desk and a computer screen showing an editor open on a vlog, the same person watching it back, and a mirror to the side.
Emotional impacts of having that in there.
Normal people probably wouldn't have emotional impacts. People are going to judge us.
I can feel that we don't want to talk a lot about them, and that's completely
Praise sounds so fake.
Let's talk about at least what I've experienced.
No one wants to listen to that.
I had like
Are you doing something wrong?
a few days where I've woken up and felt really alarmed.
Maybe that means I don't know what I'm doing.
Just woken up with panic and been like, I'm not doing enough. We're gonna.
Hey, are you okay? Do you want some help? Please.
Okay. You're doing really well. Nothing that you're experiencing is abnormal, and it's not something you're doing wrong, or something you could be doing better, okay? It seems like there's a lot of different thoughts right now. I feel like everything is a bad idea, and like everything we're doing is suddenly like the worst way that we could do anything. And I feel like I've got no time, and like I've got to do it all right away, right now. I hear you. That sounds scary. Yeah. If you don't want to connect with the body or the emotions, that's okay. we don't have to do that. Sometimes it can be easier, you know, nature can help co-regulate, can help to be outside in it. I kind of want to just watch the video all the way through. You are absolutely free to choose how you want to approach this. It's your video and they're your emotions. Also, I have experienced something that sounds similar, and sometimes I'd be doing what felt like a normal amount and it would be a bit too much at once. And I can feel the heart beating and the blood rushing, so it feels like the body's already quite activated. Sometimes we need to do really small amounts and then take a step back to be able to integrate that. It feels like I'll just never get it done if we pause every 3 seconds. And I bet that adds to the feeling of overwhelm and feeling scared. It's like there's not enough time. Yeah, I hear you. I also feel like less if I sit here and think about watching it. I just feel stressed. But if I think about going outside, I feel scared. That makes sense, because going outside would be like connecting to the emotions that are there. Which you're safe to do, and also you don't have to do. It's completely up to you. Maybe you just take over for a bit. Okay, I can do that. What I'm gonna do is just take a cup of coffee out and stand outside for a second. As long as this doesn't feel worse as we go. Okay? If this starts to feel like way worse, you can take back over. Right now, I just don't want to have to make a decision. That's completely fine. If breathing feels like a manageable thing to do right now, we can do that. And if it feels like that's worse, it's okay to dissociate. It's our brain being really clever and protecting us. There's nothing wrong with it. We don't have to ground, and we don't have to fix anything or change how we feel. I'm just gonna keep talking like an anchor, but you don't have to respond. I legitimately feel like we've got to move back onto the topic so that we can record this video. I know. That's kind of part of the urgency. The feeling like we don't have enough time. Feeling that way doesn't mean that's the reality, though. There's two different things, you know. There's like the emotion we feel, and there's the narrative that our brain gives it. So that feeling of urgency, anxiety and fear, yeah, those are if you strip it right down to the emotion in the body, it's fear. And what the brain's doing is it's putting a story to it to make it make sense. Because it thinks if it can make more sense of it, it can fix it. But it's okay really to just sit and feel it, and it's okay to go in and out. You don't have to force yourself to feel it. You can feel it for a split second, dissociate, feel it, dissociate. That's okay. I feel sad now, and also kind of relieved. You're doing really, really well. It's not easy stuff to manage, you know, but no matter how it feels, we really do have time. We don't have to rush things. Okay. I felt kind of excited to sit back down. Like I'm waiting for the dread to start again. Here, sometimes this can help. You could just write down a little bit about what's happening. You're safe.
I write a short sentence in the journal, just my name, what we're doing, how I'm feeling, and the date.
You're doing really well. If it feels safe to pay attention to the body, you can also pick up on cues of safety, like the shoulders just dropping then. We can notice that. Don't have to do anything, just notice. I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, and like everything I'm doing is wrong. So I gotta just like hide everything to make it something people can't judge. I used to feel like that all the time. You're not alone.
Sometimes the brain sneaks in a narrative labelled as a feeling. If we can notice it's a thought instead, it can help it to feel less true. I feel like I don't know what I'm doing is really, I feel scared. I'm having thoughts like I don't know what I'm doing. Telling them apart and labelling them can help give us some distance.
It's really clever, the brain trying to protect us this way. It thinks it's doing the right thing, but that doesn't mean that it's accurate. A lot of the time, the things we think, they make sense from our experiences, and they make sense as a protective response for then. And also, right now, we can take different responses and still be safe. Both things are true, you know?
What do you feel like people would judge you for?
In this video, like, having emotions, like, as if the way I feel is dumb or it shouldn't be there. And I get why, because gestures broadly at the whole timeline of our past. It's okay, you're safe.
The thing is, sometimes it does feel messy. It doesn't mean we're not doing the right thing. It just really rarely feels like a streamlined process when you're in it.
It's a lot of trial and error, really, of just sitting with what you feel and seeing how that feels, and seeing if you want to wait for it to process and just give it space, or if it would help to change how we're feeling and bring comfort to it. Sometimes both.
It's not your fault those thoughts come up. It's not you doing something wrong. But we can choose how we respond to them and how we talk to each other now.
We can choose how we talk to ourselves and each other now.
After we've helped each other come back to a feeling of safety, the body isn't in fight-flight. My thoughts aren't darting from panic to self-doubt, then we have access to our thinking brain, which means if we want to process what's going on and change the beliefs underlying the thoughts, we can start to do that now. How we feel in the moment is always the most important thing to respect. So if we feel comfortable exploring a feeling, then when we start going into it we get stressed again, we go straight back to focusing on comfort, soothing and connection. Coming back to a place of safety is the top priority, and nothing ever needs to feel rushed or forced. If understanding and exploring what a fear is gives the fear less power, we might get to that point, then celebrate and do something fun. If understanding the beliefs powering a fear helps us to change them, then we only need to explore until we see what the beliefs are. For example, fear, talking together out loud in public. Beliefs. 1. People will judge us if they see us. 2. We need to be accepted to be safe, happy, or okay. Challenge beliefs by questioning them. 1. Will everyone always judge us? 2. Does outside acceptance impact us like that now? New opposite beliefs. 1. A lot of people know us and don't judge us. 2. No. Here and now, we're safe even if others judge or reject us. Targeted affirmations. Our new opposite beliefs let us know what we need to hear in that moment. We repeat the new targeted affirmations we've uncovered, and they change our beliefs over time through repetition. How we speak matters. Sometimes, just telling our brain the opposite of what it believes scares it to hear, and that can create resistance. We want to respect our brain and support it, meeting it and us where we're at. So starting with, it makes sense that we would think this, can help bridge that gap more gently. And sometimes it helps to play around with what we say. Saying something less directly opposing might be easier to hear. For example, instead of, no, now we're safe to be judged, we might try, while being judged is really scary, and that fear makes sense from our experiences, it is also true that lots of things are different now, and that means the impact is also different.
You can take time, and we can trial run things. There's different approaches that might help. 1, working out what you're afraid of. Is there a specific judgment? And people judging your emotions and thinking they don't have a right to be there, and think about how we'd respond.
How would we respond?
Well, the same way we use comments we get online as keys. We work out what they bring up, and we change the belief surrounding it, and that changes how we feel about the comment.
That's why it gets easier to read, like, after you do that process, and it feels more irrelevant.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can do the opposite and show our brain and each other that we're safe doing it. So if it feels like I have to hide, we have to be less visible. Sometimes doing something that makes you feel safe while feeling a bit more visible and showing that nothing bad happens can be okay, as long as you're checking in with how different people feel and seeing that it's not too much. So if you wanted, we can do something that helps anchor to who you are and make you a bit more visible. How? Oh. Yes to both. Sometimes having like an anchor to who we are makes it easier to have these fears because we can see that they don't fit. Like if we have fears about what other people will think, sometimes I think it's really easy for their distorted, assumed version of us to kind of overtake what we see ourselves as. Having something that anchors us to our identity of who we are makes it obvious that they're distorted a little bit more because they don't fit. So sometimes things like wearing clothes that are familiar or putting on makeup that makes you feel more like you, sometimes that can help a bit to remind you who you are while you're having these thoughts, and then it makes it easier to go, oh yeah, that's not me.
Some more suggestions for identity anchoring activities could be making art, drawing what you look like inside, or using an app like PicCrew to create an avatar of you, using Play-Doh or clay to make an item you like, building something from inside or a comfort place with Lego or in Minecraft, making yourself an I Am Me playlist of songs that make you feel like yourself and listening to them, holding a stuffy toy that feels familiar and safe.
And sometimes we can change beliefs and thoughts by questioning them. Sometimes putting a bit of distance in helps as well, instead of thinking how they'd respond to you. What would you think if somebody told me my emotions didn't have a right to be there?
I'd think it was dumb. I'd think they were just saying that because they didn't know how to deal with it. And because maybe seeing people who don't feel like they have to mask and hide scares people who feel like they have to mask and hide. And then they project that onto people. I could see it easier if it was like something someone said to you.
It's just as true, yeah. If you shared this video and someone said your emotions didn't have a right to be there, is a baseless thing to say, really. Doesn't mean it has to have no impact or it should have no impact, but the impact isn't really from them. It's just bringing up something from old experiences. But also, we can use even the thought of it to change the response it would give us.
Sometimes it helps to think about the thing we're afraid of happening and think how likely is it, but also how bad would it really be.
When we're thinking about how likely an experience may be, it should be acknowledged that our previous experiences likely skewed our results. I know for us, unlikely things seemed normal, so when we ask ourselves this question, we do so mindful of that caveat, and while comparing to recent data, while thinking of others' experiences as well as our own, and we try to hold pools of data from evidence of wider experiences as well, to give an idea of the likelihood outside of just our experiences, which may make something seem more likely than it is. This can be soothing for us, because we can see that the things we're afraid of are often not that likely at all. If this question doesn't bring a similar result for you, feel free to leave it behind and take what's helpful.
More about like catastrophizing though.
It's where you bring in probability and also think, what would I do about that?
So I post this video and somebody comments saying your emotions don't have a right to be there. I'd feel angry. And then I'd also feel like I might find it funny because like they so wouldn't have a point. It would be so weird for someone to care that much about what someone else was doing. My emotions do have a right to be there. And if someone said they didn't, I just think it was a problem with them. Which it would be, yeah.
Added note in the journal reads, I can remind myself who I am. My emotions have a right to be here. It doesn't matter if others don't understand that.
Okay, this is actually helping a bit. Good. And it's okay to explore, like, what a fear is. You know, we do it intentionally. We stay in the present. We're aware of, like, where we are right here and now at the desk. We do things that help to anchor us to the present. Even just listening to us talking to you. And then we can explore something we're afraid of, but without it taking over. So instead of watching it play out, like getting a bad comment where somebody that couldn't handle their emotions said something mean, instead of just letting that consume as a reality, it's more like holding each part. If we do it in the journal, it helps almost like take a snapshot of the fear and we just hold it in the book, in the paper. And by doing that, we can contain it in something, the same way as having us speak out loud and go through, you know, how you'd feel if someone said that to someone else in here. Because it's easier with a bit of distance for it to not consume. And then we don't have to go into it too deep. If spending time with the thought doesn't feel better, we don't have to do it.
But you know what would happen if somebody made a comment that wasn't right?
You'd respond really sarcastically to them.
And then we'd laugh together, and then I'd block them.
Yeah. The people that couldn't handle emotions are not around anymore. It makes sense that these fears are there, but the places they came from, they can't impact us anymore.
And we're not them. We're not going to tell you your emotions have no place. We're not even going to have to understand them to tell you that they belong. We'll want to learn what your experience is like. Not to try and fix it, but just to know.
And we'll help you work through anything complicated that comes up, because you're not alone navigating this.
And we'll always protect you, so that you can express yourself without being afraid of what anyone else thinks about it. Because we'll make sure it doesn't matter.
Creating our new reality. Once we've addressed and dismantled the distorted old reality, like taking off an old grey pair of glasses, we get to create our own. Being a system really helps here, because even if I'm struggling to see a positive interpretation of myself and my behaviour, someone else in my system probably can. They can give me a different lens to see through, and I can build on that once I know what it can look like.
Know what you watched this back and what thoughts came to your mind.
Maybe it helps to hear what comes to our minds when we watch it back. Because it's probably a really different template.
Impacts, that was the last thing. The like emotional impacts of having in there.
It's really brave of you to talk about this. And to think about it. And you sound quite present doing it.
I've got really like, I'm not going to talk a lot about them because I can feel that we don't want to talk a lot about them, and that's completely okay.
Listen to that reassurance as well, and checking in and making sure that everyone's comfortable. That's really respectful.
I'll just talk about at least what I've experienced. I had like a few days where I've woken up and felt really alarmed. Like, just woken up with panic and been like, I'm not doing enough. We're gonna. It's a feel of like running out of time, and there's a feel of like failing everything.
I think that the way you speak about it is a really good balance. Like, you're just voicing what you're feeling, but you're doing really well at having that narrative not take over. So you're not saying these things are true here, right? You're saying you're waking up and you're feeling this and you're thinking this. That's a really good separation. That makes me think that, you know, you're learning really well how to speak about things without them consuming you.
I like the way you're taking time. You're pausing, giving yourself space to think through what you're saying before you say it. Even when you feel a sense of urgency and rush, you're not letting that change your behaviour. You're choosing how you act.
This is helpful. Okay, I want to try watching this and doing some makeup.
I totally get why people say, like, trusting the process now, because watching this and thinking, I don't know what we're doing, but having people in here going through it anyway and just being, like, step by step, instead of, like, stopping and changing because I think it's not worth it, or I think, like, what I'm doing isn't going to work, which is keeping on doing what we're doing while I, like, put on makeup and straighten my hair, and I'm starting to actually feel not just better, but like, yeah, this is right. I can have confidence in myself and what we're doing because this feels like it's helping. It really helps to have, like, people that know the process. So I feel like there's guidelines, like there's a safety harness and safety net and, like, safety walls around what's happening. I'm not just drifting. And then it feels okay to, like, choose what we do, like whether I want to explore the emotion or whether I want to just distract from it, listening to some, like, empowering music, putting on makeup, don't want to watch the video. Like, these feel like options now, not like overwhelming possibilities, because of both of you being like, you know what, it's your choice, any of these can help. And then also saying, like, just doing things, that's really helpful for you to just, like, take over sometimes if I'm like, I can't make a decision. I think it's really important to know, like, you know, the way you feel makes sense. Of course those emotions would come up from the experiences we've had. And also, it's not a bad thing to feel emotions that we can process now together. It's okay to feel those emotions, and also it doesn't mean anything bad about us to feel them. Like, if you shared this video and someone made a comment that was mean, it wouldn't mean they were right if we felt emotions about their comment. It would just be us using their comment like a key to be able to process emotions that we didn't get to process at the times when that trauma was created by people who said similar mean things. It's really just using our environment in a way that benefits us, and the people that have made the mean comment don't get credit for that because we're the ones choosing what we do about it. And if we can use that to help us, we can. But also, similarly, we could just remove their comments. We could even just turn the comments off. It's important to know that it's your choice. It's our choice. You know, fully to choose, because there's no bad meaning about us from any of these things. And someone else's perception of us is just them coming through their lenses. It's not accurate. We know ourselves, and we can be confident in that. Even as we're learning who we are, we can still be confident in trusting ourselves to learn who we are without it having to feel like we have to fit someone else's pre-designed, distorted image of us. I kind of get it. I'm watching this back now, and because you've both made me feel like my emotions have a place, it feels more like I can say that now, and it feels more irrelevant what somebody outside watching might do, because we've done this so many internal steps to connect with, like, who I am and what I'm feeling, and to feel okay feeling it, that's so solid, you know? And, like, if somebody else said something, it just feels so hollow, because they wouldn't have gone through that process and felt these things. And, like, I feel like we've all got my emotions back, and even if somebody doesn't understand it, that doesn't mean anything, because you understand it and I understand it. And, like, the more I watch this video, the less I feel afraid of seeing it. And the less I'm even thinking about what somebody else would see, because I'm focused on what I see, not thinking about what somebody else might think. But like what I see is like, I feel so much, like I've got so many more levels as a person that all kind of weigh me to like here, now, what I'm feeling, who I am. That's why it's called anchoring, isn't it? Like, if I accept those emotions and I feel them, instead of like floating away from them, I feel like they help weigh me down, but like in a good way that gives me substance. And then if I feel okay with that, and I feel like those belong, and like I belong, and we all like speak out loud to make it really clear that I'm accepted feeling these things, and that I make it clear that these emotions are accepted, then it just feels like somebody else's view of it becomes like this wispy little bit of breeze that's just like doesn't even move me because I'm solid. It's a really nice way to explain that. I know exactly what you mean. I watch this now and
It's super stressful.
I really feel for you. You're not doing anything wrong.
Like, I'm really anxious about things.
I got you past me.
I just feel empathy. I don't feel like that reality is true, but it's painful to think that like this version of me, even a couple of days in the past, feels like that. Like I really feel for myself, you know? Because that's a painful thing to experience. But it doesn't feel like I'm doing something wrong to experience it. It's just hard. But I also feel really proud because I could talk about it. Here we are now and I'm processing it. I feel like that gives me so much more to know about myself. If someone made a comment now, I just feel like they were projecting themselves. And since I know myself, I'd know if they got me wrong. So it wouldn't even make me mad. It would just be meaningless.
We are safe to put ourselves out there, and people's reactions to us don't define us and don't hurt us anymore. Like, we can keep each other safe.
Because we've worked to feel the emotions that come up, but change the thoughts that are attached to them, now it feels like I can have new thoughts about it and new emotions about it. Because I didn't try and like suppress the emotions that were there, but I also didn't say the thoughts we're getting around them are reality, so they didn't like get stuck looping. And now it feels like I watch this back and I feel really proud of myself. Because this is like so hard that I've been working. And it's made me feel like more strong in myself and more like I can feel what I feel and exist visibly and be even less like the fear that I had of feeling like I needed to shrink down. I don't feel that now watching that back. I feel so proud, and like that makes me feel stronger, more like stable. So I'm not really thinking about another person's response because I'm just feeling that. It's awesome. Now I feel like we've started from like the most internal layer moving out, you know? It's no longer about what other people would see when they look at me. It's about like I feel my emotions, I'm proud of my emotions. I have a sense of who I am and I feel like I'm expressing it in what I'm wearing and what I look like. And I think if I couldn't do this for me, like if I was too blurry and I didn't know what my identity was or what I looked like, I think I would ask for people in the system to help me collaborate and just do something that meant something to someone else in here. And then I'd be wearing like something that meant something to one of our kids, or something that like something that meant something to the system as a whole, something that was us. And I'd be wearing that, like proud of wearing that. And I feel like that's what I was representing.
Once we feel reconnected with ourselves and each other, as much as we comfortably can without expectation of perfect, and as long as we can hold that connection, whatever it looks like, then we can build up in different environments. We start with whatever the lowest level of difficulty looks like for us. It could be another room of the same house, the garden, a nice park, the front drive, anywhere that feels safe enough. We can still feel afraid. As long as we can come back to us repeatedly, this is manageable level for us. Video shows our system dressed by Axel, wearing steampunk goggles, a black and white bunny ear hat, and some pastel cute makeup with eyeliner.
there are different ways to do this, but I've dressed in a way that makes me feel more like myself, and then I've chosen a time where I feel safe leaving the house. It's going to be quiet, it's kind of dusky evening, it's a safe area to walk at that time, but I'm not going to be like massively visible because it's quite quiet and it's like there's less people around. I'm going to take a quiet route.
The walk shows lots of flowers that our kids want to point at and point out. What if someone says something? It's okay, our emotions are allowed, remember?
Sprint.
We're not doing anything wrong.
Sprint.
We're allowed to exist.
Well done.
That was okay. This could be okay.
Can you pet?
It doesn't matter if
Pet the
someone
ones
sees us.
that are, pet the ones that are fluffy and not poisonous.
We can focus on what we feel. What if someone says, "Host will keep us safe"? Why don't you jump on the wall?
Okay, we can do that.
What if someone yells, "Insel Jump, it's okay.
It's okay. We'll keep you safe. You're allowed to have fun.
What if someone says something?
If anyone says anything, older people in here will deal with them. It's not your responsibility to deal with them.
I'm scared. It's okay.
We'll keep you safe.
Yay! Well done. You're doing awesome. Check you out, just feeling your feelings.
Well done. I'm proud of you. You did a good job.
Once we get back, we do something comforting and just chill out. We make sure to dwell a little on the good things to help our brain build the muscle of noticing them, like how our kids felt happy walking on the wall and the joy we felt for pretty flowers. Then, after we've rested for however long we need, we go on another walk with an ever so slightly heightened difficulty level, making sure to still reduce the scary parts of being visible wherever we can so that they're still a manageable level for us. The manageableness changes from person to person and day to day, and that's okay.
Alright, so we're out in the middle of a field in a park. It's gorgeous sunlight. Oh, and while we're at it, we have dyed red hair. Oh, nice. Some goggles that are steampunk in origin, and some sort of compromise makeup that's a little bit goth and a little bit pastel. I think it works. I think it works beautifully. So, generally, like, it's easier for us to do now. It's not easier for me to do. Oh, that's cool. I mean, I'm sorry. Nah, I get it. That's legitimately very helpful. Yeah. You see why. What we would do is we're in a park and there would be people like, a distance away. The thing about being in a big field is that we can kind of choose the distance. So we can walk at a distance where no one can hear us. And if we want to feel like a little bit even less intensity, we can put headphones on. Because if we're walking around with headphones on and talking, people will just think we're on the phone. Or we walk around holding the camera because we could just be like filming ourselves. And then also I've noticed people like avoid you more often. Yeah, right? And if I put these on, then people can't see my eyes and I feel more hidden. That's a really good point. Sometimes there's things we can do that just make us feel more comfortable. And it's all about like lowering that level. And then we would just have a conversation, except usually the conversation would start with me reminding you to feel your footsteps on the grass. That's so cool because like I am actually doing that naturally. I didn't come back to it when you said it. I was like already doing that. Yeah. Reminded you about 27,000 times over the last 2 years. It's been very helpful. Wait, remind me. So, as you step, notice your foot contacting the ground, right? And try and step onto it gently. You feel the vibration as it goes up your body, and try and make it something that you're aware of, focused on. And then as long as it feels comfortable, we can keep paying attention to things like how the goggles feel resting against us, the sunlight on our skin,
gentle exterior sensations. And then that helps bring us into the here and now. If I notice that I'm getting thoughts like there's someone looking at me and I wonder what they think, then in the moment I don't explore that. I might now. At first I wouldn't. At first it would just be about coming back to those sensations, often with me reminding you that their opinion is irrelevant. So this is really helpful. This is helping. Yeah, actually, because like I noticed there's a person on a bench, and like I know that we're so far they can't really hear us, but I still have those thoughts that like they're going to hear me talking, and they're going to think something. So, how do you feel? And if the idea of checking that out makes you feel worse, then how do the physical sensations of your foot contacting the floor feel? So you can always picture it as like a point of stability where you can feel that strength in your legs. You can feel the ground kind of holding you. I feel a little nervous, but kind of excited. Good. Yeah, you're doing really well. It's different for different people, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, it is anyway. That's normal. That's all right. But also, like, I've noticed that some people in here, especially, like, it seems to be a superpower some of our kids have, some that they can just want to do something. Like, they've been walking along, like, petting flowers. Oh my God, there's a dog looking at me. There's a dog looking at me. Please come say hi. Please come say hi. Can you hear me? Yes, you're a good dog. You're a good dog. You are. Oh my God, come say hi. Damn it. Sometimes with some of the kids in here, they want to do something, and it's our job to help support them and allow them in doing the things they naturally want to do. That would be the point where he was like reassuring me that you are not other people's perceived expectations of you, and nor do you have to fit them. You're free to exist without paying attention to other people's body language. We're safe to not fit like singular normative standards. Damn straight. Dogs will still like us, even if society doesn't. That's really, really good reassurance. It's safe for people to judge us. It's safe for people to not understand us. And at every point, focusing on what it feels like to be understood, supported, and accepted by each other. And then that just gets stronger. Yeah. I noticed that, like, the person on the bench felt like something at first. And I felt shaky. But then after doing this, I feel really solid. And I feel like I'm here. I'm not, like, feeling from over there. And I'm not, like, they don't feel like anything anymore. I'm just kind of aware they're there, but it doesn't feel weird to turn my back on them or like to talk louder. We don't even have to talk to each other quietly. No, we do not. And we are still safe. It's fun. You notice how that adrenaline gets less. Yeah. And I just feel more like in my experience. And I can feel that people in here want to go play in the park. Perfect.
Some of our kids recorded this part of us going through this mini little thicket of trees, and I think the symbolism is really beautiful, because not only did they not get shut down into thinking sort of what if, or what if this person thinks that, what if that, no, we can't do it because, we all went absolutely, let's do it, and because they're looking down the whole time, because otherwise their noses get poked by all the branches, so they can't look up and around them and see which way to go. And a lot of the time it's a lot of us just kind of keeping a lookout for them and guiding them which way to go until they look out and find the path is just there.
Go through trees. Do not know which way.
We are cryptid.
And you're right.
Yeah? I mean,
And snagged by all the practice.
You got this.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Doing good. You got a victory over my tree foot.
We look for fish. Squirrel! Ryan! Ryan, bring it a nut! Quick! Oh, look, it's so cute. It sees us. Don't move. But it's so cute. I want to scream. Don't scare it away. You gotta be gentle with this girl. Did you throw it a nut? Oh my god, look. Oh my god, what a good shot, Ryan. That was amazing. Yay!
In the end, for us, unmasking really becomes existing authentically, with less and less barriers in the way. It's manual and it's work at first, but the more we practice together, the more we get seconds and then minutes just being in our experiences. So we keep building up the different places we can exist together. It gets less scary as we go, and then it gets fun.
So, one way that we used to practice, although dressed far less wicked conspicuous, but this is cool and I love it. It's just that at this point, we've built up to this being okay. I do not recommend that you start at this point. We were dressing really, really normal. You think anything you've worn has ever been normal? We would dress in slightly less conspicuous clothes for us. Maybe not for the whole population. And then you walk here next to a road, but so as not to film the license plate. We walk here next to a road and then just have a conversation. Drivers are going that way onto us, so we can't actually see their faces. But we know that there are people watching us, technically. Especially on like a road where they're not going to slow down and stop. They're just going to keep going. There's no real risk, but there's enough feeling of risk to trigger a sense of that fear of being observed. So it's a really good place to like create a setup situation to practice, because it exposes you to the same trigger, but at a low enough level. I would have headphones on, and I can't actually hear if they say anything. What we're working on really is coming back to our feeling of approval for ourselves. Working on coming back to just the conversation we're having, not how it could be perceived by other people outside of us. So all of those things lower the level of the trigger, but while keeping you exposed to enough of a trigger to make the fear active so that you can practice building against it.
Of course, you all know yourselves best. Make sure to keep yourself safe and don't do anything that could present any risk to yourselves or your system. I know there are some days where we do not walk near busy roads because of the dissociation. So there are some times when we would not do this, and that's okay. Our normal can change day to day. We worked in stages. Because we'd spent months building skills like muscles at the gym, things like breath work and anchoring through senses are helpful for us in the moment.
This is because we practiced them out of context in moments of safety until coming back to these sensations felt comforting, which made it useful in situations that caused stress and anxiety.
It's really important to build the skills first, so we're not disappointed if they don't help in the moment we need them.
Or if coming back into our body feels unsafe or unusual the first few times we do it, so it takes a while to become soothing.
It's okay that the association takes time to build. The audio in the next clip is unusual. It's not use. It's the uneditable coffee shop overwhelm we tried to do our best with in post.
Isn't this like old times already? Well, I'm glad that you feel okay about this. You don't have to pay attention to what other people's body language is. You don't even have to look at them. You are right, madly, actually, though, that this is easier because this is exactly the same. I told you, being afraid is a good thing. This wouldn't work. It would be a lot easier, though. You'd be anxious about it being fake. So, I know, anchored to the sensation of my feet on the floor. Just hear you talking as if I'm me, not trying to fit into the mold of the distorted version of you that other people might think. Yeah. This is helping, actually. This is better.
Being visibly plural in public versus connecting with us and others.
How is it different?
Like when we were practicing being visibly plural in public, I guess we had to deal with the lenses of different criticisms
Because if shame is a protective response to criticism and to lack of safety from rejection of society, then there's different lenses that rejection can take, because there's different ways to fall outside the bounds of what society says is acceptable. There was the lenses of feeling emotions that I was told I wasn't allowed to feel and being like, actually that's okay. And then the lenses of like singular normativity and being like, oh, we don't have to present as one person. Like with the cafe earlier, when you pointed out that I was feeling anxiety because it's super weird to have a friend there that we were talking to. So harder. Yeah, like interacting openly as plural in front of strangers or the public, I think we've built that up to being okay, because I don't think about what they're thinking. I come back to, even if I think about it, because I do think about it, it's not accurate to say I never think about it. But when I get those thoughts, I'm aware that it's that like lens of how do I fit this mold of this normativity, whether it's like cis, hetero, gendered, neurotypical, singlet, whatever it is. I'm just like, oh, the criticisms I'm thinking about myself right now are because I'm stuck viewing myself through these normative lenses trying to fit that mold, because my brain fears rejection and it needs acceptance. And if we reconnect with each other and like with what I'm feeling, and we hold each other and come back like home to ourselves, to our system instead, then I don't need that from anything outside, and other people's opinion becomes irrelevant. But for you, it's a process of coming back repeatedly. Those lenses are triggered, and you have to remember to return home. Yeah. For you, I don't really leave, but I don't get pulled out of my body in the same way to think about how I'm being perceived. So I think it's different software, maybe different hardware. It's really grounding though, because earlier when I was scared, because having a person we know and like and connecting to ourselves as well as them, that's been like a whole separate process that we're learning to do. So the fact that we had a friend there was way harder than just like interacting. Like there was no problem interacting with him as a system. We were doing that anyway. It was just filming it. It set like one too many things, and I was like, I feel anxious, anxiety. But when you mentioned like that makes it real, then we just run the same process we would have run to build this originally. It was like, oh yeah. And I realized it was more difficult to run it when there's a person we like that we're connecting to as well as connecting with each other than it is for like a whole coffee shop room full of strangers. No, that makes sense though. Because with the room full of strangers, black and white, in it, like there's a whole goal. Your brain tries to go into what they feel. You pull it back to what we feel. It tries to think about their acceptance or their rejection. We pull it back to our acceptance. Theirs doesn't matter. You know, there's no grey area. It's just going from that to this, and we can stay here, right? I'm starting to see a picture, yeah, but it's somebody we're connecting with at the same time. You kind of are trying to stay in the middle because you don't want to be completely unaware of what your friends feel. That's the point of connection, right? Being aware of both at once. That's harder than just, you know, the straight up black and white of being here instead of there. It's trying to do both. Of course, it's harder. That makes a lot of sense.
Connecting with us and others, our process and how we're learning to be more comfortable doing this.
I remember starting and thinking that this was something we were never going to be able to do. Like, feel connected with somebody else at the same time as each other. The way it used to work
For some of us,
was one of us would get front stuck. And then, for me at least, it was really difficult to hear anything inside. It's like I was completely cut off. If I was talking to another person outside, like sometimes I could hear people inside a bit. I couldn't really make out what was being said. It was really difficult to feel like I had time to pause and even know what I was feeling, much less like what other people in here were feeling, because I just didn't feel like I had the time. It felt like every interaction with everybody outside of us, I needed to answer and respond so promptly, like either defensively because of the fight flight response, or to not be difficult, or to be as like convenient as I could in the fawn response. And whatever way it was working, it just became this rushed thing where I always felt like there was this urgency and this timer running, and
what people were saying. I was like just trying to listen, make sure that I'm understanding what they're saying, what they need, and respond how I need. So very functional, but also like ironically not very functional. Yeah, yeah. But I get it. Like it's the survival brain trying to be really functional about it, and it was difficult. I'm distracted by the people. I'm also distracted by the people. I do see that they can see us, but that's okay. We're safe. We can ignore them because we're not trying to connect with them. Okay, we just use it as practice. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. We take it as an opportunity. Practice connecting with what we're doing and with ourselves and each other. I had the opposite experience. What you were like, I had no ability to connect with other people outside of us and no interest in doing so. But I knew what I wanted and what I needed, and that was the only reason that I'd interact. I was aware of what they were saying, feeling. I didn't struggle to translate it, I just didn't care. And then I think really through conversations with each other, we've each kind of met in the middle a bit. Probably coming from such opposing ends was what made it so useful. Yeah. 700 fights later. I think you kind of need conflict to be able to get collaboration sometimes. It doesn't have to be the same level of conflict that we had. Maybe not. Is it really that bad? We did not respond to each other how we respond to you and how we respond to each other now. It was quite opposing. I can't imagine. It's honestly hilarious. I know that was like our whole thing. It was like it was one or the other, at least for me. I could feel what I was feeling and I could feel my body once we'd built that up to being able to do it from scratch. Then I could feel it, but only when we were alone. And like whenever there was any other person around, I completely and immediately lost contact with everything I was feeling. And often my body, like I would be really thirsty and I wouldn't know. If I was socializing outside and I wouldn't be able to eat because my stomach was offline, and the second I came back home, I'd be starving immediately because I guess I'd like drop into the body again, which incidentally I drink smoothies or have like baby food pouches or soup so that I'm not just not giving the body nutrients while that's happening. And we had conversations where we would learn about the different experiences we were each having. I remember being really confused by why I was doing that. I think that might have been how it came out. I get that it's not intentional now. No, but that makes sense because it's really manual for you. It's really intentional. You have to choose to like pay attention to what other people are feeling. And for me, it was like it's not an option. It's just on, and so much so that it switches my sense of myself off. I feel like I'm in the middle. I think I'm a little too focused on what other people might be thinking because I get a bit of anxiety sometimes about it, but I don't completely lose like what I'm feeling or what I'm thinking or what I need from it. That's really cool. Ideally, it's healthy to be able to feel both and oscillate or be in the middle somewhere. That was weird. I didn't want to fully throw you out of the arms. That's so wild. It's like feeling something press from inside the muscles. I know it weirded me out when I was getting used to like co-fronting. It is weird. I like it now, but it's weird. That's cool. So a lot of the time, I would find that I had a conversation with others. It felt rushed. It felt urgent. And later, when we were alone, I'd come back and somebody would be like, "I hated that you shared this," and I would feel terrible because I didn't mean to overshare what somebody wasn't comfortable sharing. I hadn't been able to hear them, and I didn't know at the time. And this happened a few times. I apologized. I worked out what I needed to repair the broken trust from within the system. And I had to try and work out how to stop that from happening. But since I disconnected so much, I couldn't tell what was okay. So we'd kind of start having more conversations ahead of time. Like if we were going to socialize with somebody, we'd
talk about it and say, I'm going to go speak to this person now. What's okay to say, what's not. Obviously, you can't predict where the conversation is going to go. So there were some areas of topic we learned, like, okay, those are like non-negotiables. These are things we don't touch. A general rule of thumb is if we didn't experience it in first person or we're not sure, we don't share it. We kind of pre-arranged our own ground rules, conversations that were topics we knew other people in here didn't want us to go over, and then if they come up talking to somebody outside, we'd just be like, I don't have permission to share that. And because we disclosed that we're a system, that is understandable. But if we weren't out as a system, it would be okay to just say, I don't want to talk about that. I'm not going to share that. I don't want to share that. That feels so horrendous to the fawn response, and like, it's not okay. Here's your gentle reminder that it's totally okay to just be like, I don't want to talk about that, and not even have to give a reason. No is a full sentence. So we communicate with people ahead of time to say that this is something that's going to happen. Like, this is something I know that's difficult. It remains a difficult thing to navigate together. So people that know us, I will say sometimes I need to pause to check in with what people are saying inside, because I can't always hear them when I'm talking to you. And people know that, and telling them ahead of time makes it way easier when it happens in the moment to take that time to pause. It's like giving future us or whoever's in the front at the time that space to be able to be like, give me a second to think about this. And it removes that urgency a bit. I still feel it, to be honest. I still feel like something's pulling me forwards, and I have to like calmly put the brakes on to that feeling of urgency.
If you can actually hear us, that helps with the ways we respond from inside, doesn't it?
Yeah, because we've built the connection a bit more now. I think as we go, it's like safer and safer to keep connection with us and others, so I can hear a bit better now, or I can feel a bit better. And if I'm speeding up and not slowing down, he'll like generally tap me or something, and it just brings me back to awareness a bit. Or I can slow down so I can focus on hearing what the person is saying, and then take time to focus on what people inside are saying. Before I go to share something, I kind of pause and I try and speak inside to say, I want to say this. How do people feel about this? And I'll kind of feel. The more we go and the more I work on pausing, I think pausing has truly been the one thing. Pausing and checking in have been like the main pillars of how we're building this. And at first, it's like the brain didn't want me to be able to feel what we were feeling while people were around. So it took some work to build, and that's okay. But the more we build it, the more I can feel whether I go to share something and it feels like it's being pulled back. Almost like there's a lasso around it, and I can tell how many people are playing tug of war. And if there's like that, if there's any feeling of being held back at all, I will kind of go, okay, we're not going to share that. Sometimes I go to share something that was my experience, that I have permission to share and I want to share it, but it still feels that feeling of being held back and like it's not okay. And then we'll talk about it. So I'll still not share it because nothing needs to be rushed. It's more important that we feel ready to share something than that we've like, just closed our eyes, screaming, held onto the steering wheel and pushed down on the accelerator of connection. So afterwards we might reflect on it as a system, and we might have a conversation, and I might go, I really wanted to say this earlier, but I felt like it wasn't okay. And we'll talk about like why people felt that, and whether it felt like it disclosed too much information about the system to feel comfortable, or whether somebody was like, whether a part of me maybe didn't feel as ready as I thought. So it's really important to have like the check-in ahead of socializing with other people to know what topics are okay as much as you can. Then the pause and check-in the moment.
Then 3, the reflecting and talking together afterwards, which I dissociated away from, forgetting to mention during filming, but is really necessary because it is where
we'll see what went well, and we'll like talk about what maybe felt difficult and how we could approach it. How do you pause if we're in a conversation like now with somebody else and they're talking, and I kind of feel like they ask me something and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about answering it, but I feel so stressed by like not giving an immediate answer? It's a really good question. What I do, and I know you're gonna get sick of me, it's you breathe. Yeah, you know where I'm going already. We build that into a strategy that helps. But it is the first thing I do, yeah. I take a breath. And then all the reassurances that we give each other, we remind each other of again. So we can make sure that we're around and we can give you the reassurances and the reminders.
So when you're in that moment and someone asks you something, you know, we can remind you that you can take time to answer this question. You don't have to be palatable to people as your main priority. You don't have to make a conversation smooth and easy as a job. You're as important as everyone else within it, and you deserve to be able to focus on your experience of the conversation. You don't have to attune to other people's emotions or shape the way the conversation's going any more than the other party in it. That really helps. Yeah, I know. It really helps me to hear as well. You don't have to be okay with answering something as well. You don't have to want to give a lot of information. There's no particular shape you have to fit to be likable. In a conversation, you don't have to be the person who wants to answer everything or the person who doesn't have any problem with any topics. It's okay to have boundaries and preferences. Oh, and when you do that, and this is kind of the worst part, so I should tell you now. When you sit there, someone's asked you a question, you don't know how you feel, you take a breath, you give yourself the reassurances and the reminders that it's okay to take space to work out how you feel before you answer something. You're not going to immediately feel better. That sucks. I know. But you may feel quite uncomfortable, actually, having nothing said with that silence, feeling like a tension that builds. But that's why the internal reassurances and the breathing are just to help you to feel steady, feeling that discomfort. And we'll be around you, making sure you know that you have our acceptance, our approval, our love. Those things are unconditional, regardless of how you respond or what you say or what information you share or don't share. And that helps to make it easier to sustain that feeling that, to be honest, is deeply uncomfortable. And maybe we can practice together, because if you build enough connection with me, then sometimes we can share an emotional landscape a bit. Super helpful. I don't feel that discomfort. So you can level it with a bit of what you're feeling and a bit of what I'm not feeling. And it makes it so much better to have a place to like an oasis from that sense of pressure. So maybe like also finding people within the system that don't have the same experience as you when this is happening, and like asking them to ride shotgun so that you can build connection with each other to be able to feel what each other's feeling. I get the impression some systems can do that more naturally. For us, it's something we've had to build, and something you may have to build, but we can do that. The more often you do it, the more you feel okay doing it. Practice with us first, and if we ask you a question, just practice giving a sentence to give you some time, like, let me think for a second, or I'm not sure, hold on. Cool, this helps. And it's kind of like a continued practice. So we amend this as needed every time. We check in with each other before we're going to be social, and we check in with how we're feeling then, and we work out what topics we maybe don't want to go into, and that can change day to day, and that's okay. And then when we're there, we take that space whenever we need it. We try and check in just regularly to feel like what we're feeling and learn to build it up. The more times you can remember to do it with other people around, the better that muscle gets at doing it with people observing us. You can practice at low levels with safe people, with us, through watching YouTubers even, and just checking in with how you're feeling with a person seemingly in front of you. This is a lot of what we did when we were at the cafes as well, when we were practicing. We spend a lot of time coming back into our emotions and just practicing how to feel that with other people present. It does get easier. The consistency is key. It doesn't have to be perfect, but if you just write check in on the back of your hand and write pause on the back of your hand, then every time you glance it, you'll find that it's easier and easier to remember little and often, and that's what builds the pathway in the brain. I mean, physically, literally, that's what builds it. And we do this consistently. Every time we get in after socialising, after class. Sort of like supervision. Like how therapists have. Yeah. We work out at the end after. Was anything difficult? Did something go well? Do we need to amend for future? And I will say that feeling what we're feeling and feeling connected to ourselves and each other, as well as somebody else outside of us at the same time, maybe it wouldn't be that difficult for everyone. Like maybe it's not going to be that hard for you or for other people, but it's okay if that's really hard. I think it's just legitimately a difficult thing to practice doing, and I think it's okay if it takes some time. Up until probably up until a couple of years ago, I thought it was something that we just couldn't do and that we would never be able to do. And
now more and more we can do it, and it's amazing, and it is so worth it to have those moments of feeling like connected with each other and also able to genuinely connect with people outside of us. It's so much less performative and stressful in those moments that we have it. And I think all it is having those moments and building them into slightly longer moments every time. So it's something that we can do now, and I never thought we would be able to. So it can be learned and it can be built.
When we can exist unmasked, the world is full of opportunities to play.
Visibly plural. I wasn't going for it. I was just trying to film what I was going out of the house in.
Lux.
I am happy because they have allowed me to be cat. Now I am adventure cat. I have a backpack. And I have wings.
And ears. Adventure cat.
I will point out that you suggested I sit.
Look at the pretty spinning wheel.
If it looks sharp, don't poke it.
Why?
Creepy gnomes. Look at them.
That's what happened to the last kid's toe.
Do you want to try again?
No, I failed. I can't make you fear fairy tales if I trip over my words, can I? I'm watching the road, don't worry.
So look at our pogi flower. Is soft.
10 out of 10, good texture.
Spring.
A log.
You know how to do this safely?
Yeah.
Put the worms down.
We have a nut. I will give you a nut if you come down. I'll give you a nut anyway. Would you like a nut? Hello. Hi. Hello. Yes, I can jump. Maybe you film me. I do not hold camera. This is not low impact exercise. Okay, look at it, eating the nut. We did it, we had a squirrel. I want to pet it.
It ain't gonna be friendly if you try and pet it.
Maybe if we feed it more.
I promise you, no amount of food is gonna make that friendly enough to pet.
Adventure cat, adventure stickers.